Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, my teacher cut the tube for my insulin pump because we couldn't have headphones in class. He said, "I just don't want to use mine." Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My teacher cut the tube for my insulin pump because we couldn't have headphones in class. This happened when I was in middle school, back in the days of wired headphones, so about 2011 or something. I've, 24M currently, been a type 1 diabetic since I was about 4 years old, and I use a continuous glucose monitor and an insulin pump. I had an IEP, so all my teachers were told about it and that I would need my insulin pump in class, that it might make noise and I might have to pull it out of my pocket and mess with it if I needed insulin, or I might need to drink a juice pouch, and I was able to do so at my discretion. We had one teacher who was a complete hard *SS for no reason. She was notorious for making kids cry during presentations. She even told one girl who wanted to be a doctor to find a cure for cancer, because her little sister had childhood cancer, that she would need to actually be smart to do that, while chuckling to herself. Let a kid dream, man. We were like 12 years old. As you can imagine, she was also at war with technology, and on a side note, these days I use my phone to check my glucose and give myself an insulin bolus. I can't imagine being a kid today and dealing with a teacher like that when the lines are blurred and your smartphone actually is a life-saving medical device. But anyway, if you're not familiar with insulin pumps, the kind I use has a little tube that connects the pump, which has the insulin, to my body, which needs the insulin. This teacher also liked to be weirdly obtuse about things. Instead of being like other teachers and simply saying something like, "No cell phones in class," put it on my desk, which would allow me to remind them it's an insulin pump, and they'd usually say something like, "That's right, my bad." She would instead try and talk abstractly about what she wanted to happen while walking around the room. So this particular day she kept alluding to students listening to music in class, that you should be careful what you do because she can see it, that us kids think we're so sneaky but the adults know what we're up to. I obviously wasn't listening to music, so I figured she'd seen someone with headphones in the room, and the next thing I know she had snuck up behind me with scissors. It took me a good moment to realize what exactly had happened, because I was astonished. I was used to teachers thinking I had a cell phone, or getting upset about my pump beeping during an exam, but no one had ever touched it before, much less cut my life-sustaining tube. I was actually sitting with my mouth agape, and she turned to me, now that she was at the front of the class again, and said something along the lines of, "Mr. Wonderelli, care to share what tunes are more important than listening to class?" I'd at this point put together that she thought I was listening to music. She thought she cut my headphone wires. I replied, "Just the sound of my thoughts while I've still got any," since that was my insulin pump. She had to let me go to my locker to get my cell phone to call my mom to bring me a new infusion set. My parents insisted no cell phones until high school, but my mom was also scared with me being T1D and too dyslexic to remember a phone number and wanted me to easily be able to call her, so she got me a $15 Walmart phone and put minutes on it, and now I feel old. Then I just waited in the front office for her. She worked from home and drove like a bat out of H*LL. She was so angry. I don't ever want to see her that angry again in my life. It took 10 years off of me and I wasn't even in trouble. The teacher had apologies to me, and all the teachers got some more disability accommodation training or something. Kinda anticlimactic end, but a friend thought it was entertaining and that I should share. Edit. I'm going to put some of my comments here so no one has to dig if you want more information. Yes, she knew I had a pump. I had an IEP and my teachers were given the information they needed to know about my diabetes. Even still, a lot of non-diabetics just don't get it, or they forget. It would happen a lot, and teachers would ask for my phone if they saw me messing with it under the desk. Really, I was going through a thing and embarrassed about being diabetic, so I would often try and hide it, so I get how they thought I had a phone, but a simple reminder it's a pump was enough for every other teacher. Yes, she did get really close to me. I was facing the front of the room to look at the projector screen and to take notes. She snuck up behind me from the back of the room where she was lecturing at us from and reached her arm down towards me with the scissors. I didn't notice her doing that. Kids used to keep their iPod or whatever in their pocket and then run their headphones up under their shirt. It sometimes left a little bit of the wire peeking out from their pocket to get to their shirt. That's where she cut the pump, was down at my waist. In terms of her apology, it wasn't too bad. We had a meeting with her, the principal, assistant principal and a lady from the special education office, plus me and my parents. She said she was sorry for her actions and that she shouldn't have treated me that way, and she hopes I don't grow up to expect people to act like that towards me. She forgot I had a pump, but I didn't feel like she was making an excuse. She was saying she should have been more mindful and it was her fault and that I did nothing wrong. She also said I was brave and calm in the face of adversity. Stuff like that. And then she apologized to my mom and dad for frightening them and for any costs. She offered to pay for it, but they declined. They wanted all the teachers to get more education about kids with diabetes, and the school had like a nurse diabetes educator or someone come in to talk to the teachers. No, my parents didn't sue her or the school. No, she wasn't fired. Yes, I still had to be in her class. And yes, I did have extra supplies kept in the nurse's office, but I also just really wanted my mom in that moment because I was a kid. This was a tiny school and did a lot of backwards things. They mishandled my learning disability as well, and one year one of my teachers was surprised my dad has mild cerebral palsy and thought it must be so tough for me having to deal with that, and would talk to him like he was 5 during student-teacher conferences. He's an engineer. Edit 2. When my mom showed up, I was sitting in the office waiting for her. I think it took her like 15 minutes to get their post-phone call. She asked me if I was okay and checked out the damage that was done. I could tell she was mad, not with me obviously. She walked straight up to the receptionist and just asked where the teacher was, and they phoned the classroom and had my teacher come to the office. The principal also came out. My mom ripped her a new one, but she didn't yell, though I honestly think that made it more terrifying that she was very collected. I don't remember word for word, but basically she said that removing my insulin pump was a violation of my IEP, not to mention that it is a medical device and an extension of my body which is keeping me alive, and that she would have the audacity to damage life-saving medical equipment was reckless and criminal, that type 1 diabetes is no joke and takes lives, that she should count herself lucky she didn't damage the pump itself, and she let her know how expensive they are and everything they had to do to get me one. She's had years of practice having to argue to take food into places they don't let you take outside food, or in the airport that I can't take my pump through scanners, etc. She was very practiced at putting the fear of God into people, but in a way that they can't turn it on her and say she's being disruptive. Then she took me home for the rest of that day. Even if you were listening to music, what gives her the right to cut the headphone wires? Sounds like she should not have been teaching. Seriously, if she thought they were earbuds, she should have just asked OP about them and then confiscated them for the rest of class or something. Teachers don't just have the right to destroy property. You'd also think she'd notice that the headphone wires weren't going to OP's ears. She thought he was listening to music through a tube to his stomach. I'm assuming that's where your tube goes based on my nan and an old friend who had insulin devices. She sounds like an awful person in general, and she shouldn't have been working with kids or in education in general with such a cruel and condescending personality. She should have been fired. I'm saying this as a middle school teacher and a diabetic. She literally destroyed a medical device. Like, I know it was fixable, but what if it wasn't? And with the healthcare costs in America. My mom's a type 1 diabetic, and as a kid she couldn't even go to overnight camps or anything because there was just too much risk back then. Like, school is supposed to be safe enough to learn in. Even if it was headphones, that's destruction of property. I hope that woman steps on a Lego every few days for the rest of her life. Man, she should have been fired in the spot. Like, I had a SNA, special needs assistant, who wouldn't let me do my insulin at lunch, and my mom got her fired after 10 minutes with the principal. And she was the assistant for special needs, having trouble wrapping my head around this. That and shock from OP's actions. I mean, come on. Oh, you kept your cool much better than I would have now, and I'm 30. Says a lot about your character though. Good on you. Honestly, I was dumbfounded and kind of an idiot kid who didn't truly understand the full gravity of the situation, so I wouldn't credit myself so much for being calm about it. I would have sued her, the school, the district, and the state. She should have been fired on the spot for the shit she pulled. Would have probably paid for Opie's college with that ADA settlement money. It's actually kind of crazy, but I think most of us first learned that adults can be shitty through some of the teachers we had. Oh, sweet heaven. She would not just be lucky to still be teaching, she'd be lucky to still be walking if she was my kid's teacher and pulled shit like that. Hell hath no fury like a mama bear gone scorched earth. I mean, that could have been a felony in one action. Malicious property damage, tampering with a medical device, endangering the welfare of a child. Depending on how expensive their unit was, that teacher could have been locked away for a long time. How did the teacher react when you told them what they cut? Did they have to pay to replace it? She just stood there for a little while, then asked me if I had another one. The tubing is part of an infusion set. I did have some extra supplies in the nurse's office in case of issues/emergencies, since tubes can get caught on doors and ripped out, or from whatever else kids do. But honestly, I was a bit freaked out. I was about 12, and I asked to call my mom. They're like $10 a set. Then the tubing is dry and needs to have insulin run through it to fill it, so there's the cost of that. She didn't pay for anything. He said, I just don't want to use mine. I was in the Air Force in the late 90s and was stationed in Korea. I became friends with another airman my same age. We became good friends over the months. One day he knocked on my dorm door and asked me to use my printer. I said yeah, of course, and opened the door. This guy was very good with computers and actually taught me a lot of valuable computer skills I still use today. So I curiously asked what's wrong with his, because if anyone had a problem with theirs they would go to him to fix it. He casually replied, nothing, I just don't want to use my ink. That shit is expensive. I was speechless. I kinda closed off to him the rest of the time I was there. Ha ha ha. At least he was honest. He probably considered it payment for his tutoring. I have had friends like that. Emphasis on had. I wonder how they did pay him back for the time he spent helping others with their computers. Oh, you spent 4 hours helping me today? Here's a beer for your troubles. Could it have been a deadpan joke? I totally see myself saying this even if I have a real reason to use your printer. I'd have waited for a reaction before telling you it's a joke. This is what assholes with no sense of humor do when they realize no one else is laughing. How many comments till you get someone who says, well, hey, you got to give it to him for being honest. Now, without knowing him, I can't speak to why he chose to answer in that form. It could range of reasons, from him being neurodivergent to him just being an asshole and answered this as a way to try to play some weak form of a power move. I'm guessing at the latter based on the fact you avoided the guy the rest of your time in country. So F*** that guy, if it makes you feel better, he prob a grumpy, bitter shell of the man he once was. He's making Scrooge look like Mr. Rogers, and every time he laughs a baby angle dies. Laughs, he doesn't laugh like we would, he only laughs when getting to tell children Santa's not real, or when he gets to hit said children while driving. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.